Good morning. It is Sunday, April 12th, 2020. We're still all stuck in our houses, self isolating or avoiding physical contact as best as possible. Today, I'm going to talk about a couple things. Number one, whatever comes on my mind, but with the context of from a leadership or management perspective, my goal is to help not only existing leaders, but to help those that are thinking about going to or taking upon such a role, or people who just maybe recently got promoted or just got the position. It can be a very challenging role to take on because for most of us, we've never taken any formal training or really had any formal experience before attaining a true leadership position, whether it be a manager in a business or company, or maybe it's your own business where you have to hire people and be responsible for what they do and how they behave. So my goal as a coach is to help people grow into their leadership roles. I think the focus for me again is for those that are newer into the position. So I mentioned that we're all stuck at home self-isolating, and what that means is a lot of us are working remotely. This could be new for a lot of us, uh, but the thing is, um, what people don't realize that working from home, there are some positives and some negatives. It's great to wake up, maybe just stay in your pajamas and get straight to work. You have the flexibility of hopefully being responsible and controlling your own time, when you can do work, when you can take a break. What is lacking is the reduction in or social interaction. So now that you're working from home, you're not going to be amongst your fellow coworkers or colleagues or peers. You can always call or email or have a video chat, but it's not the same thing. There is something about being in close proximity with other people. For myself, I feel that I can get things more done quickly. When having conversations, I'm able to understand and read the other person better. Uh, there may be some non-visual cues that you might be able to catch on video, but when you're in person, you see their entire body. You might be able to see how they move their feet, clasp their hands. There's a lot of little hints as to how people is thinking and feeling when you're having a conversation, and you're there. You're able to see their entire body and watching for those non-visual cues. Another disadvantage for some people working home is the isolation. Again, you're not going to be around your colleagues or your peers, and for some, this causes loneliness, which can lead to depression, sadness, and this can actually be detrimental to your mental health. And of course, our mental health is linked to our physical health as well. So if this isolation is impacting you or someone else in a negative way, it is going to hurt you physically and mentally. You may not see it now, but it does have an effect on people. So what does this have to do with leaders or managers or executives? Well, now that your team is working remotely, your leadership will be challenged. So I'm sorry to say, for the micromanagers, this is probably especially challenging. So I've never been an advocate for micromanagers. There are times and places where it is useful. Again, maybe in an example, I'll use the example of an emergency where there's people that may not know what they're doing. Someone needs to take control, provide direction in order to resolve the situation. But in these times of remote work, being a micromanager, your skill set may not be able to help you here. You're going to have to develop new skills and new mindsets. As a micromanager, these people are probably wanting visibility all the time, to be able to watching over people's shoulders, to have constant reports. But with remote work, that's almost impossible now. I'm hoping that this isolationism and this remote work does have some positive outcomes where micromanagers, maybe they see the light or their eyes are opened in terms of their leadership style. You, there's no more. I feel it's almost impossible to micromanage in a time like this. This is where those the strong leaders will step up. That we're gonna be able to see the mediocre leaders versus the good leaders. And what do I mean by that? For the good leaders, they're in the process of or already have established a very strong culture. So what is culture? Culture is a set of values combined with a set of actions. So if a micromanager does not trust their staff will reflect that behavior. So that micromanager has established a culture of mistrust. So any existing team members or new ones for that matter will take on this behavior as well. They won't trust each other. They may not trust their other peers, maybe even their customers. That's why as a good leader, you need to be able to establish a very strong and positive culture. So what are examples of this? So number one is trust. If your team doesn't trust you, how do you expect them to complete whatever they need to do? If they don't trust you, they're always going to be worrying. You could be worrying about possibly losing their job if they don't do something, or being called out for not finishing a task or doing it poorly. They could be worried about other things. They're not just focused. They could be worried about, where they're going to go out for dinner. By establishing a culture of trust, it takes one more thing off an employee's mind, right? That by establishing a culture of trust, you're going to make them feel safe. And in turn, this will lead them to be more comfortable with you, and they'll be able to focus their energies and their attention on their tasks, on achieving the goals that you set out for them, or they set out for themselves. People cannot be treated as automatons or just plain workers, right? Again, I've mentioned in my last video that people are human beings and they need to be treated as such. And you can't just be dictating or telling them what to do, right? You need to have a conversation and mutual trust and respect. And this is all a two-way street. You give as well as you take or receive. You need to be able to ensure that your team is conducting themselves in this, culture of trust, this positive culture. So when it comes time for this remote work, if you've already established this culture, a strong leader or a good leader has, little or less to worry about because they know their team can perform, that there is trust, that you can trust them to do whatever they need to do. So here are some other, pieces of advice or tips for leaders or managers that are, dealing with remote teams. So for some of us, we're used to working with teams in other countries. There's a lot of outsourced workers. So for some of us, managing a remote team is normal. But for most of us, this is very new to us. So what do you need to do? So there's a couple key things I would recommend. So number one is maintain frequent contact. So I've been a strong advocate of conversations and relationships in order to establish yourself as a strong leader, as a very good leader. And what does frequent contact mean? Because people are not congregating in the same office or in the same building anymore, the opportunity to chat, to talk, to maintain contact is reduced, possibly even eliminated for some people. Having frequent contact means that you need to reach out even more often. Before, you may have one-on-one meetings scheduled every month. You might need to do that bi-weekly or even weekly. It depends on you. It depends on the state of your team. Are they feeling alone, unsupported? Maybe you need to reach out more to those team members more often. Again, going back to the culture, you need them to feel safe, to trust you. And by reaching out consistently and frequently, they can recognize that you do care and that you are looking out for their well-being. Related to that is, I would say, establish a consistent routine. When it comes to frequent contact, my recommendation is, hey, thanks, Lily. My recommendation is maintain a consistent routine with a daily meeting. So, for example, every morning, I myself will have a 15-minute meeting with the team just to quickly go over what we did the day before, what we're doing today, and if there's any challenges or roadblocks that I or someone on the team can help with. Again, this is like the first point of contact in the day. It's up to you. Maybe you could have one at the end of the day, but usually myself, I just maintain one meeting a day just to ensure that the team is in the same virtual room, be able to see each other, through their webcams, just to be able to hear each other's voices. Again, when remote working, you need to establish a consistent routine to ensure that you are always on track to make things feel, normal. Um, Again, there's some people that may not be able to keep focused when they're working remotely. By keeping consistent routine, it forces them, it trains them that you are still working, that you need to get things done, and you are still accountable. So giving a consistent routine, like for myself, I am a creature of habit. Once I'm a routine, I'll stick to it. Right. Another uh, piece of advice, maybe at the end of the day, you just have people send an email to you, with any updates or any information that you feel they need to pass on or they need to pass on to you. We want to, again, as remote workers, with dealing with remote workers, having that consistent conversation with them, right, is critical. Also, when it comes to conversation, you need to establish guidelines or expectation as to how to reach out. Like with working remotely, like you could have these video chats now, but is it always appropriate? Um, you know, I don't want to say I'm guilty, but I do multitask, right? If I'm in a virtual meeting, a video meeting, you know, I'll also have a instant messenger on, chatting with other, colleagues and peers. It's just faster and it allows me to multitask. Some of you might disagree with, the efficiency of multitasking, but hey, it gets my work done, and I do it all the time. So yeah, I'm guilty. Also, in terms of how we establish guidelines as to how to keep in touch with each other, is it through email? Do you use the instant messenger or chat? Do we use oh my gosh, a regular phone call or text message or a video chat, right? You need to establish guidelines as to how you maintain contact with each other. There's certain mediums of communication that are more appropriate in certain situations versus other situations. Okay, and then with the conversations and the contact, it doesn't always have to be at work. Again, especially in these times, there's a high level of stress and anxiety. Again, it could lead to depression and loneliness. You have to give a opportunity or an avenue for people to talk, right? Especially people who are living by themselves. Who are they going to talk to if they're self-isolating at home? You may be one of the few frequent points of contact for them during the day or during the week. And what this means is, there's other topics besides work that are on their mind or that they may want to talk about. You need to be able to give them that opportunity to, to speak about whatever's on their mind. As a leader, your job is not just to, you know, guide people into achieving a goal. Yeah, that is the primary purpose of a leader, but you're also there to help them grow and to develop as human beings, as professionals. And if you don't give them a chance to speak about other aspects of their life, you're really hindering their growth. Again, work, business, it's only one aspect of a person's life. There's the social aspects as well. You have family, you have a partner, you have pets, you have hobbies. You know, there's other things that are part of a person's life that are important to them as well. For some, hey, work may be number one, but for others, it might be family, and you need to respect that, and you need to be aware of that. So when it comes to managing remote workers, again, you need to give them the opportunity and avenue for them to speak. Right. So one of the best books I've ever read on coaching and leadership is called The Coaching Habit. I highly recommend you look that up. It's a very small book, very easy to read. But to summarize, what it is saying is that your job as a leader is to listen. Less talking, more listening. And the book gives you a set of 7 questions to help you do that. You don't have to use all 7 questions, but I can say that I've used some of them, and they are extremely effective, and they do what the author says they do. So the number one question, whenever I have a one-on-one meeting with someone, is I ask, what is on your mind? What is on your mind? So this gives them an opening to speak about whatever they want. And I can tell you, when I speak to my own team, it's not always about work. There could be some personal challenges or things going on at home. And all they want to do is have someone listen to them. Again, a good friend of mine taught me a very valuable lesson years ago when I first took on my managerial work role. Is that they said, Hector, when someone comes to you with a problem, they're not expecting you to solve it all the time. Because I always panicked when someone came up to me and explained a challenge or problems like, oh my gosh, I need to help them solve it like ASAP. But I've learned over time, majority of the time, that's not the case. They just want to have someone listen, right? Not necessarily solve whatever their issue is. They just want someone to listen. As an inside joke with some people, I call them the venting sessions or rant sessions. I always joke that people always come find me, not to invite me to a party or to go out for dinner. It's always just to complain about something. And I said, that's fine. That's my job. I want to help you, and the best way I know how is to listen. Listen to whatever you have to say, right? Because I do care about what they are feeling. I want to be able to help them through their challenges, and the first thing you need to do is listen. So how this ties back to managing remote workers is, again, you need to be able to listen. The thing is, you need to be able to reach out more often in order to initiate that conversation, right? There's some people that may be too shy or just a little timid in terms of they have something to say, but they may not reach out proactively. This is where you can reach out and you ask that number one question: what's on your mind? And then the follow-up question is always, and what else? The question is, and what else? So this allows the person to keep talking about or expanding on other topics or issues that they may be on their mind. Again, I'm a strong advocate of relationships and conversations as a leader, and this is especially important when you're managing remote teams. So another piece of advice: you need to set clear guidelines, principles, or to make sure that you and your team are aligned. Again, what do I mean by this? By setting these guiding principles or being aligned. Because people will you won't be able to see or be able to be in constant contact with them. And especially for micromanagers, you don't know what they're doing. What I do is I say that even before remote work, my message to my team is what I care about is the deliverable. Doesn't matter to me that you work, 9 to 5 or you put in X amount of hours. My expectation of you is that you deliver what is asked of you, based on a high quality of work and an effective result. So if you want to work in the middle of the night, that's where you're most productive. Hey, you're more than welcome to. Right? If you want to, only work in the morning and take the afternoon off, that's fine by me too. Again, I'm looking at the end result. So the analogy is to reach a destination, there's multiple paths. There's not only one path. Everybody has, different motivations, different ways they see things, and of course, different styles of working. And you need to realize that, again, we're all human beings. We're all unique individuals. We are not the same. So, of course, that naturally means we do things different. We think differently. We see things differently. And by setting guidelines, general guidelines, saying that, I just expect a deliverable. Um, I'm not expecting you to work 9 to 5. It gives people that flexibility. And again, that trust, that comfort with you to work effectively. You give them the autonomy, give them the authority to work, to make decisions. Again, we want our teams to be working effectively and cohesively. And if we don't trust them, that's never going to happen. Okay. So I would say from high level, a summary of what I said in terms of advice for managing a remote teams is: number one, establish frequent contact. And make sure you communicate how communication should be established: email, chat, phone call. Number two, establish a consistent routine. Could be meetings, or asking people to send update emails, having one-on-ones. And then number three is set guiding principles to ensure that you and the team are aligned. Related to that is make sure that you establish a culture of trust. And this is based off of establishing strong relationships, having good conversations. Um, Remember, culture is the values tied in with the action. Right? You want a very strong and positive culture within your own team. And I'm just gonna dive off to another topic. So how do you establish this culture, these relationships? Like, again, you need to take the first step as the leader. You need to step up, right? And to establish trust, you need to show that you are a human being, that you are vulnerable. You don't know everything. Put that ego aside, kick it out the door, and be able to ask for help, or just say you don't know. I'm kind of half serious and half joking when I say, like, I'm probably like the dumbest guy in the room. If I walk into a meeting, I don't know everything. That's why I'm relying on the team. The team is there to work cohesively because the sum is greater than its parts, right? Everybody has a unique perspective. They have their strengths, and we all have our weaknesses. And it's our job as a team to cover each other's weaknesses and to hopefully eliminate them, or at least reduce them, right? This also means, in order to be able to admit that you don't know or you made a mistake, is, have some humility, be humble. Right? No one likes a prideful or egotistical leader, or person for that matter. Who wants to be around them? If you yourself don't want to be around them, make sure you don't reflect those behaviors and actions as well. So being vulnerable, having humility, can help you establish a stronger foundation of trust, which creates a stronger relationship and hopefully builds a strong culture within your team. Remember, culture is values and action. All right. I think just to quickly touch upon another topic as well. I recently finished the book, The Infinite Mindset by Simon Sinek. So some of you might know Simon from some of his other books, when leaders eat last, start with why. Forgive me if I did not know the exact titles, but hey, it's something like that. But look him up. So his latest book is The Infinite Mindset, and I felt that with this book, not only did I learn a few things, quite a few things actually, that it helped validate the actions of the perspectives and my actions even more. So very high level summary is people go through life, and from their perspective leader through two views. There's the finite mindset and there's the infinite mindset. So what does each mean? So finite mindset means that you see everything as there's a win and a loss. It's black and white. We're looking for the short term gains without looking at the long term impacts. Whereas an infinite mindset, you know that whatever you're doing is never going to end. So your actions, your words, your thoughts need to reflect uh, playing this infinite game. That there won't be a winner, there won't be a loser. Things ebb and flow, peaks and valleys. You give an example of a company like Microsoft. When they first started, they were humongous, and then when Steve Ballmer came in, it took a bit of a dive. And when Satya Nadella came back, or sorry, took a leadership role, that company came back into the forefront. Their Microsoft's image has been reshaped. Growing up, all they were known for was back in the day was like Microsoft Office and their operating system, but now they're known for a lot more. Cloud technologies, um, even hardware. Their laptops are great. So going back to the book before I stray too far off topic is, for myself, I don't want to say that I'm a martyr, but when I'm working in a team or leading a team, my perspective is on the longer term. Right? My decisions are based on the greater good of the people, for the organization, for your business, for my business. You have to realize that I would say that we live in an ecosystem. A company's like an ecosystem. There's so many different moving parts, and it's our job to make sure that all the parts are working effectively. Sometimes those parts might be broken. We fix it. It might not be working effectively. We somehow improve it. With an infinite mindset, you got to think about the long term. You can't think that there's always a winner and a loser. Whatever decisions you make, whatever actions you make, have impacts, and you need to be cognizant of that. So some few examples from the book. If I don't remember the years for these examples, so you could always look that up. But I don't know if people remember quite a few years ago. Wells Fargo got caught for starting false or fake bank accounts for their customers. So in order to meet um, sales goals, the employees started making fake accounts for their customers, right, to hit their sales numbers, and then they would just close them. So a lot of customers got um, uh, curious or suspicious that they started seeing these charges in their accounts, and for accounts that they didn't even have. So eventually, they got caught. Right, Wells Fargo got caught. They got fined, and when people were interviewed and questions like, "Why did you do this?" It's like there's pressure from the top. I was scared. I wanted to maintain my job. It was the culture of the organization to hit the goals no matter what the cost. Right. So the cost here was, ethical standards, people's trust, your customers' trust, and these people felt they had no other alternative other than to create these fake accounts, right? So again, it ties back to what I mentioned about culture, right? The value system and actions. So the value system was basically low ethical standards, that it's okay to cheat your customer, to lie. And in terms of the actions, they created these fake accounts. And when you have a culture like that at a company, it's like they're going to suffer by not existing anymore, or losing business. What people don't realize, that if you do the right thing, the positive consequence is that you'll be rewarded by your customers' loyalty, your customers' trust, which in turn could lead to higher sales. I'll give you another example. So Patagonia, they make a lot of outdoor gear, like jackets and other types of clothing. One year they put out an article saying that they weren't doing a good job of being eco-conscious. That in terms of carbon emissions, it took X amount to make a jacket, right? That had to be created in a factory and then transported to another destination. So I believe might be the Wall Street Journal and New York Times. They took out an ad and said, "Hey, world, we are guilty, but we are trying to do the right thing, correct our course, and reduce our carbon footprints and be more eco-conscious." So they weren't doing that to, yeah, okay, maybe they were trying to market themselves, but on the other hand, they were admitting their mistakes, right? And the message was that we care about the environment, and this is what we're going to do. Versus where some companies, they'll say, "Hey, our job is to make as much money as possible, create a great product or service, and then look after our people." So what you need to do is, pay attention to people's language. I'm very firm believer in specificity of the language, in terms of not only what people say, it's also how they say it, right? In this case, if you're saying profits first before people, then I feel that that reflects your values. Is people less important than profits? Well, for some people it might be, but for myself, I totally disagree. So kind of come back to now, like just my own personal opinion, that people do come before profits. And you look at the crisis right now, and you see a lot of companies stepping up, but there's a few, i.e., I would say, look at our Canadian banks, right? That they're trying to look great by trying to defer mortgages, but hey, no, sorry guys, you're still gonna have to pay interest on that, and what that means is you're gonna have to pay for that later, and it might increase the amount you owe. In my opinion, when it comes to these banks, they're not playing the infinite game, or they don't have the infinite mindset. How does this make how do you think people are going to perceive when you make a statement about you still need to pay interest? Again, it's I think I feel it's a bit of a marketing ploy to say that we are trying to help people, yet our number one priority is profits. We're going to help you, but we still need to make money. Okay, that's fine, but those banks, or who knows? Well, I'm going to assume they're going to be around for quite a long time, if not forever. With the infinite mindset, it's like, so what if people don't pay interest on their mortgage payments for, let's just say, 6 months? How much money are they going to lose in that short term versus um, I'll say, I don't know what the word is, maybe the prestige, or how people view them in the long term. You know what? If these banks had forgiven people for the interest payments for 6 months, these people would go head over heels, being loyal to these banks. But after this crisis is over, how are people going to view these banks? Will they trust these banks? Like, do they think these banks are going to care about them as customers? Because it's a clear message. It's profit before people. And as leaders, you I have a very strong opinion that you need to make people first, right? It's always people first, because without a team, without customers, like what? your role is pointless. It's useless, right? We do need leaders. We need strong leaders. And what that means is you need to look after people first. Okay, it's been about 30 minutes. I'm going to end it here. Again, thanks for watching. I'm also active online. You can check out YouTube, check out my Facebook, check out LinkedIn. Quite active there. Thanks again. I'm going to continue doing these lives. I'm going to try anyways every Sunday, saying 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Hopefully you join me. Watch. I would love to hear comments. I would love to have some interactions. Maybe one day I could interview you or someone. Let me know. So thanks for watching. I am signing off. Have a good one, everyone.